Really quick tutorial this morning, especially for beginners, but you might have been intrigued by Super Nudge, and I'll teach you how to do that as well. We're just gonna be nudging objects in Illustrator. Let's go ahead and get right into it. It'll be quick, easy. All right, so I got two objects here, two rectangles. If I wanna just nudge these by a pixel, all I have to do is use my arrow keys while one is selected. So I can just go right, left, up, and down to nudge that by a tiny bit. It's set to 1 pixel by default. The super nudge is by holding shift while you're using the arrow keys, and that'll nudge it by times 10 of whatever your default is. So right now it's nudging it by 10 pixels. If I look up here in my X and Y coordinates, I can see them changing by 10 pixels at a time. But you can adjust this. You can adjust the original nudge, and then the super nudge is times 10. So if we go up to Illustrator down to preferences, if you're on Windows, just find the general preferences. The keyboard increment is where we determine how much nudging we are doing. So this is just with the arrow keys, just the basic nudge. Let's say I do 5. Remember I said that the super nudge is times 10. So now our small nudges are 5 pixels apiece. Our super nudge is going to be plus 50 each time we nudge him. And that's holding shift and using the arrow keys. So nudging is very helpful. I'm going to change that back to 1 pixel. That's where I keep it at, the default 1 pixel, but you can change it if you need to. Anyway, nudging is very helpful when you're trying to just scoot objects over a little bit or line them up and they're just out of line. You know what? I got one more thing. Let's hop back in. In case you're still here, the other thing you can do to help you with nudging and making sure things actually line up is in the view dropdown. If you go down to snap to pixel, that's going to make sure that all these X and Y coordinates that you see in the upper right hand corner of the screen or up here, just depending on what version you're in, make sure that those are not tenths, hundredths, and thousandths of a pixel. Instead, it's either a whole number, or I think this one here, yeah, you can see the X value here is a 0.5. So it's either gonna be a whole number or a 0.5, so you can nudge that in. And the reason that's a 0.5 usually has to do with potentially on where it landed. Also, if you have an odd number up here, that'll make it a 0.5 amount. If I move this, yeah. So it was because I had an odd number before. So for instance, if I did 151 and then I moved this, the only place that it can land is at a half, because if you divide this by 2, you're going to get a 0.5 number in there. So that's where it has to land. If this is back at 150 and I move it, my snap to pixel, since it's turned on, it's going to make sure it snaps right into a whole number. And then when I'm nudging that, I know that once I nudge it up to another rectangle that's been snapped to pixels as well, it's gonna line up perfectly with the nudge. I'll just show you really quick. If we have snap to pixel turned off, I'll do a whole tutorial on this, but hey, you guys are still here. If we have it turned off and I move this rectangle around, look at my values now. My X value is 750.667. So it puts it out there with like a thousandth of a degree of accuracy, which in that case, it doesn't help when you're nudging, because you're going to be just off because you're nudging by 1 pixel. And so really having that snap to pixel on there and utilizing the nudging is pretty helpful. And also super nudge, that's holding shift and using the arrow keys, nudges by times 10 of whatever your little keyboard increment is. If you guys like this tutorial, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, do all the other things, notification bell. I'm rusty on making tutorials, so I forget how I end these things, but I'll see you guys next time.